Welcome to Hospice Explained. This podcast is intended as an educational aid and is only a resource to begin to understand the end-of-life season. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please always seek advice from your physician or qualified members of your healthcare team with any questions regarding a medical condition.
Hello and welcome to Hospice Explained, episode number 101. I am your host, Marie Betcher. On this episode, I am interviewing Adam Zuckerman. Adam is the founder of Buried in Work, a leading e-commerce platform specializing in estate planning, organization, end-of-life tasks, and estate transitions. With a deeply personal motivation stemming from his experience managing his father's estate, Adam is dedicated to simplifying these complex processes for individuals and families nationwide. As an Eisenhower Fellow, attorney, and MBA, Adam brings a wealth of expertise to his role, combining legal knowledge with entrepreneurial vision to drive innovation in the field of estate planning. Adam's mission is to empower individuals of all ages to navigate the intricacies of estate planning with confidence and ease. Through Buried in Work, he seeks to revolutionize the way people approach end-of-life preparations, ensuring that everyone has access to the resources they need to secure their legacy and protect their loved ones. Welcome, Adam Zuckerman, to Hospice Explained. Adam, tell us all about yourself.
I appreciate being here. I have a little bit of a unique background in the sense that I didn't expect to be in this industry. I'm an attorney. I have an MBA. I've worked in finance at a hedge fund. I've worked at big companies like Anheuser-Busch and Discovery. I was actually the entrepreneur and futurist at Discovery for about 8 years, which involved anything from fixed file sharing to we have somebody jumping off the top of Mount Everest in a wingsuit. How do you make the show better? Last year, I was full-time employed at a job and I was traveling a bit too much. I was on 54 flights in 1 year and I resigned. And I thought I had some time to myself to relax before I jumped into the next endeavor. And my dad was over at my house and we were doing some woodworking in the basement. And he walked up the stairs and he said, "Adam, I'm tired." And normally when somebody says, "I'm tired," it means that they want to go and take a nap. But for my dad, it was a little bit different. He was a leukemia patient and had leukemia in remission for about 6.5 years. So at the time, 6.5 years prior, I actually donated bone marrow to him, which was kind of neat. Came back once, they put it back in remission. And when he said, "I'm tired," okay, it's great. Let's get you back to the doctor. So he had some tests, went back to the hospital on a Thursday, let's say, and 12 days later, he passed away. So far too fast.
Super fast. I'm so sorry.
In a weird way, like if you had to choose, and this is hindsight 2020, we got to say goodbye. And the extra time that we got with him was fantastic. He was lucid up to a day before he passed. Got to meet and build a relationship with my sister's children, nieces and nephews, which I think is fantastic.
Yes.
And it would have been a very different experience if he just didn't wake up one morning and we didn't have a chance to say goodbye.
Right.
Far too soon. Wish it didn't happen, obviously. But, there's always something you can try and find. So that's the background. And then fast forward to today. I started putting things together for my mom. I was the executor of the will, helping her transition the estate, and took very copious notes. And when I was with her financial planner at the end of the conversation, she said it was the most comprehensive transition she's ever seen. And I had to get it to other people. So I took some time. We built a website. And that's what Buried in Work is and has turned into. And we are collecting resources and creating a one-stop shop for people to manage and simplify estate preparation and organization, simplify end-of-life tasks, and then get up to speed on what estate transition and probate is. So that's the sort of long story about how I got to where I am, but happy to be here and happy to share anything I can to help.
I so appreciate this. It's amazing to hear a good story because, there's plenty of stories that aren't as good without good planning in place. What's the first place you would recommend somebody? It doesn't have to be a hospice patient, but what's the first place you would recommend someone to start? You have a website, and you can go ahead and tell the audience your website.
Yeah, it's a website that's slightly punny in name, helps you remember it. It's Buried in Work, so buriedinwork.com. The first thing I'd recommend is come to the website itself. And the question is, where are you in your journey? So if you are one of the 10,000 Americans that have turned 65 recently, every day 10,000 Americans turn 65, maybe it's time for you to actually focus on your estate plan a little bit. If you are a sandwich generation, 15% of Americans in the sandwich generation are caring for themselves and their parents. Maybe it's time for you to take a look. We have quizzes to help you organize and understand how organized you are. Checklists, guides, a whole host of resources. But if you are currently in the throes of dealing with someone who is nearing the end of their life, we have checklists and guides specifically in the end of life task section that'll really help you out and simplify the challenges that you are about to face or might be facing right now. The reality is that we don't want you to have to learn this by yourself when the time comes. So come to us, get some free resources, and then figure out what's best for you.
So I appreciate that. That was probably the question because a lot of patients are considering cost. So you have free resources. I don't even want to make a number like 500 or less. We can get you fixed up as basics or no. Okay.
The way that we have it organized is we have a bunch of articles, thousands of articles on the website. Those are classified using tags to categories. And you can go to the end of life task section and you can say, getting started. So here's your checklist, what to do before or after somebody dies, what to do after, your fact for end of life tasks, a guide, what to do that's much more detailed. And then if you click in, you can actually find articles on specific topics like death doulas and hospice and palliative care and end of life traditions. We have guides literally that you can just read if you'd like, or we've even turned them into ChatGPTs if you're familiar with AI, where you can learn about how to navigate Christian funerals and end-of-life traditions, Hindu, Jewish, LGBTQ+, Muslim, secular funerals. We have information about final resting places, questions to ask. We have things about estate sales, how to manage grief, technology, digital legacy, closing accounts. 90% of the resources on the website are in fact free. So you can come. The question is, how much time do you have to learn? And we try and organize it so it is a high level, this is really what you need to know, and then you can go as deep as you like. And then for people that need a little bit more of a guided approach, so there's the do-it-yourselfers, and the people that want a guided approach, we have resources on the estate preparation organization side. So the estate preparation package is perfect for that. It's been called the most comprehensive estate organization package you can get. It doesn't help you make your will, but what it does is it helps you organize your will, your trust, your family information. So if you were to be incapacitated or disappear tomorrow, your family can step in and they know where everything is that they need to do. And what I mean by that is what a lot of people don't recognize is that it takes on average 570 hours of time in America to administer an estate after somebody passes. And that is far too much time. I don't know about you, but I don't have 570 hours laying around, and odds are the people listening don't as well. And we can cut that down by a significant amount. And the reason why is if I invite you over to bake a cake, and here's the analogy, and we don't have the ingredients for the cake, it's going to be very difficult for us to make that cake because now we have to go on a scavenger hunt. We have to figure out what type of cake we're going to make. We have to go to the supermarket. We have to figure out what's in the supermarket, buy it, come back, figure everything out. While you still have your capacity, if you or your family members get all those ingredients together and you organize it, baking that cake is really easy. You still have to do the work, but it's much easier. And what we're trying to do is gather these resources, help you understand what you need. We can either provide resources, or we've got 9 directories right now where we can send you to service providers in your area and get the help that's pretty important for you.
Oh, that sounds perfect.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And people just don't recognize the amount of work that it takes. When my father passed, we thought he was organized. He was a very diligent person in his life, very organized in a lot of ways. And it was one of those situations where the conversation was, Joan, don't worry. Adam will take care of it. He knows where the passwords are on my computer, and I put all the files in the computer. But the reality is that he created a scavenger hunt for me to try and figure things out. When, oh, well, yes, you gave me a website. There's 9 passwords for that one website, and they're not going to talk to me until I get letters of administration. We learned the hard way that there is being organized, and then there is truly being organized and having the people that need to be involved and informed. And that's really the message that we want is take the time, have the hard conversations, get organized now, long before you need to, because the last things that we see people want to do is be in a situation where they'd rather spend time and share memories with their loved ones and they're asking about accounts. I mean, that's not the best way to spend your final moments.
It's not. And if you wait too long, like you were talking about, your father wasn't, with it for the last
Mhm.
24 hours, you can't
Yeah.
ask them anything. They're not going to be able to tell you. A lot of patients go into that. I like to call it a semi comatose state because I really feel like they can hear,
Mhm.
but they're not necessarily able to speak.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, how do you get the password?
Yeah. And at some point in time, you say, you know what? It is more important for us to focus on the things that matter. Because passwords don't matter. If it's extra time, that's fine. You're at the point where you can justify that. But you say we're not going to be talking about this stuff because there are more important things for us to talk about. One of the memories that I have was in the hospital with my father. It was me, a few family members, and we're just telling stories, And I ended up describing it to a bunch of people as the one more story moment, where Dad, tell us one more story about when you were a kid. Tell us one more story about this. Tell us one more story about that. And we actually turned it into a card game that got released just a few weeks ago. You can order it on the website. It's 126 cards that are message prompts to get those really neat stories out of people before it's too late. So, love and relationship questions and milestone and achievement questions, the future, family traditions, all about me. And then we went, hold on a second. We also have to create another deck of cards to let people understand what's in the estate. So we created another game called Nothing Left Unsaid. And you can use those prompts to help you learn about, is there a will? Is there a trust? Where is it? What do you want to have happen at your funeral? And you can do these things very, very quickly. Um, have those conversations long before you need to, though. These are fun things to have, but the stressor is have the conversations while you can. They're really important.
And you're right.
Yeah.
So Lisa Paul has created the Death Deck and the EOL deck. The Death Deck is to stimulate conversations that matter, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like yours.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is really for medical providers to get, patient wishes out. And I
Yeah.
think what you've created and what Lisa have created is really crossed over each other into a great blending
It's symbiotic. Yeah.
because nobody's going to get every question.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you ask one person a question is not the same as how they're going to respond. And so I think this is just wonderful. Anything you can do to stimulate these conversations, you think you're going to get through 20, 30 cards and you might get through 3.
Mm-hmm.
A long conversation, am I correct?
That's exactly right. And what we found is that when people go through these questions, they're question starters, they're conversation starters. And the goal and objective isn't necessarily to get through all of the cards, it's to have a conversation that resonates. And you can skip through the ones that aren't necessarily as important. And you can say, listen, we're really just going to talk about these 4 cards today. And that's okay. You're unique just like everybody else is. Your situation is unique just like everybody else. And you need to figure out what those tools and resources are to help you connect with the people at the point in time that is best for everybody that's involved. We found that Nothing Left Unsaid, One More Story, there's a few more that are in the works as well, are really fun to do. But that doesn't mean to say that you don't want to explore other types of legacy messaging as well. So, are you going to record these conversations? Are you going to have a scribe in the room? How are you going to memorialize this? You can use it for grief and support. You can use it for reflections of your past, even looking forward to the future. And the trick is that you don't want to force somebody to do it. You want to be able to create that environment where these conversations are flowing naturally.
100% true. It's all about natural conversation. And I've recently coined the term, and I don't claim the term, but I call it a campfire conversation, something you might not talk about at home in the living room, but when you're all looking at the campfire, you might start talking about it.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Yes, it's exactly right.
Campfire conversation is the way to edge in sometimes that's something that you've never been able to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Some folks just won't talk about it. I mean, literally won't talk about it. They're afraid that if they talk about it, unfortunately, that it would happen. Well, it's going to happen whether you talk about it or not.
Mm-hmm. We were fortunate. My dad had a sense of humor that was pretty well known in the friend group. Very punny. We're having this conversation with the One More Story type questions. And the nurse walks into the room, and man, he's been in the hospital multiple times over the past several years. He's in the cancer ward. So a lot of the nurses actually recognize him because at Hopkins, where he was, oftentimes people stick around. So the nurse comes in, and he remembers her name. I don't remember her name at the time, or anymore, rather. And he goes, "Nurse," her name, "do you know why a giraffe's neck is so long?" And she looks at him like he's crazy because it's a ridiculous question to ask somebody that's in the room. And without missing a beat, he goes, "So it can reach its head."
Oh my.
It's such a stupid, corny dad joke, but it's one of the best memories that I'm going to have of my dad, or favorite memories forever, because in a situation where we pretty much all knew what was about to happen in a very short period of time, he still had a sense of humor. These type of questions, building this rapport with your family members, if you can, keeping that rapport alive is pretty important.
Adam, so much good information. What do you want people to do first? It's like a 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great question. So if you are in that situation, the first thing you should do is go to the website, and on the top menu bar, go to end of life tasks. Find the what to do before somebody dies checklist. Is really easy to find. And I'll go through some of the steps really quickly. You don't need to write it down. You can get it on the website, but here's what you need to do. If someone's about to go, locate or create a last will and testament. You have to make sure that you're mindful, though, of the legal requirements to do that. Find out, locate, create trust documents, gather and locate the other important documents that you're going to have to figure out and find. And we've got a list of those. Gather your contact information for your important contacts and begin the outreach. Locate or create a living will if you're interested, legacy messaging. Evaluate the necessity of how long this might take, because a lot of people think that end of life is oftentimes immediate. You can have palliative care, you can have hospice care for quite some time, and you might take a turn. So in the event that you do take a turn to where you're unable to communicate and advocate for yourself, do you need to have a medical power of attorney where somebody can advocate on your behalf? You want to verify and update your account beneficiaries, unbelievably important. I can tell you stories upon stories of people that have come to us. Like one that we heard recently, there was a policy for benefits from a former employee that was going to somebody's ex-wife. Fortunately, they had a good relationship still. After the individual passed, his current wife had to reach out to the ex-wife, and she was like, "Yes, please, I will relocate this policy benefits to you." But it's important for you to understand that you do need to go and check your payable and death beneficiaries, your account premiums, things of that nature. We helped one individual save $403,000. What they didn't realize was that the individual in the hospital stopped paying their bills, and their life insurance policy was going to term out without ability to recover it in 2 days. And because they followed the step of go through, check your policies and everything, they were able to get an extension by 2 days and overnighted a check. So think about that.
My mouth was on the floor, but saving somebody $403,000 is outrageously awesome.
Yeah. So that's the next step, is verify that premiums are paid and policies are up to date for all life insurance policies. Then it gets really detailed. So familiarize yourself with how to pay taxes. You don't have to do that right away. That's if you have time. Plan your final arrangements. If you don't have them written down, make sure you do that. And we've got a form that you can download that's easy to go through. Do you want cremation? Do you want burial? Do you want to speak at your funeral? Do you have a casket? Do you have prepaid funeral insurance? All the things that you might not want to think about. But if you're not making these decisions, somebody's going to make a decision on your behalf when you're not around to advocate for yourself. And where you think it might just be easier on them, and they'll take care of it. You're setting people up that are your family, your loved ones possibly, to have conversations and arguments in a time that's very stressful, where you could have just said, "Hey, no flowers, donate to this organization." So think about what your final arrangements are. Secure access to your key online accounts, your cell phones, two-factor authentication, if you have that, the apps on your phone or otherwise, password management programs. It used to be in estate planning that when somebody passed away, the lawyer would say, just check the mail for a few months and you'll figure out what bills need to be paid because you're going to get notices in the mail. But that's not how it works anymore. So much of our life is digital, is paper-free. You have to have access to accounts. That means that you may actually want to do digital legacy. So if you have Facebook, for example, what do you want to have happen to your account? What do you have happen to your pictures on your iPhone or your Android phone? And it goes a few more steps after that. So that's an example of the what to do before somebody dies checklist. If you're sitting in a room and you have some time to look over it, it's a good idea. The next checklist that's a little bit more detailed. And when I say little, it's a lot more detailed. It's the what to do after somebody dies checklist. This one is organized by time and importance. So immediately, the appropriate authority has to be informed of the death. You have to get the verification of the death and pronouncement of death. It's different. Arrange for the transfer of the body. Then you want to get the death certificates ordered because you can't do certain things later on without them. You have to find the last will and testament if it exists, similar to first step, but it's better to have it beforehand. Notifying business associates, arranging for care of dependents, arranging for care of pets. And this is really important, and I want to be clear about that. People oftentimes forget that when somebody's in the hospital, they still have responsibilities, and it's up to us, family members, loved ones, to really step in the best we can and make that easier on them. And if there's dependents, if there's pets, if there's plants, you need to take that into account. So I'll stop there, but it goes through first weeks, longer term considerations, medical, transition, probate, and a whole host of other stuff as well. But come to the website. You're not going to remember everything now. buriedinwork.com, get the checklist. And if you have suggestions, send us an email. We'd love to update it.
Oh, that's a great idea. I've been through it all with multiple family members, but it's overwhelming. It's time consuming. It's not like your regular day job gives you 3 days. And that's just for grieving, maybe funeral, but that you're right. It doesn't account for when somebody's in the hospital. It doesn't account for doing so many things. And I have a coworker that had adopted her dad's pet, just simple things. And her dad was out of state, 2 states across, and she had to go through a lot. And that was a few years ago, but just some amazing time-consuming details. Wow, Adam, thank you so much. I so appreciate the amount of information that you've put together. It's fabulous.
Yeah. Thank you. And to be clear, it's not just me. We have a lot of people that are contributing to this project. So the estate preparation package, it takes all of the materials that we have and it helps you organize it in one place. So if something happens, your family knows exactly where to go. There's 3 binders in it. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this in a second. The first binder is a blue binder that stays at your house. It's for your most important stuff, financial information, liabilities, bank accounts, insurance policies, things like that. The orange binder is high visibility, so you can take it with you to the hospital. That has your key contacts in it, summaries of your wills, your trusts, any documents, your advance directives. So the doctors and your loved ones can actually start planning things and giving you the treatment and the help that you need while you need it. And the third one helps you store your materials in it. The reason why I bring this up is because we wanted to make this more comprehensive than anybody needs. We literally go down to the details of, do you have a gardener at your house? And most people aren't going to have a gardener. But if you did, someone's going to have to call them, right? And let them know we want to continue services or stop services. So we worked with a veterinarian on our pet profiles. And there's so much that I had no idea is important when it comes to pet care, that the vet went, you know what? You need to ask this and this and this and this and this. And this is really how the amount of information that we have grew. We have certified financial planners that are weighing in. We have individuals like yourself, that are clearly experts in your field that we're having conversations with. Palliative care, hospice care, death doulas, legacy messaging people, nursing homes, retirement homes, funeral homes. I just got back from a conference in Iowa that was being held by the Funeral Directors Association. We really want to put together these resources that just take the work off of your end. And the 3 things that we want people to understand is you don't have to come to us. You just need to start somewhere. You have to get your information organized. Then after you get it organized, step 2, which is great, get your will, get your trust. And it's important to do that because if you don't have an estate plan, you might be surprised you actually do. And that's dictated by the state. It's called intestate processes effectively. So if you die without a will, the state dictates what happens. So your plan, if you don't have a plan, is the state gets to decide what happens in a specific order. And then the third thing is you have to tell your loved ones that you've done this, because if you do a lot of work and nobody knows that you've done it, guess what? That work doesn't exist. So that's the 3 really important things that are the takeaway for today. If you have to do anything, gather your information, get organized, and tell your loved ones.
Adam, number 3 really is important. It's telling somebody. I've been a person that has missed being told something, and you find out about it later. Sometimes it's not a big deal, and sometimes it really is. And I also know somebody who died without a will, and the mess it was just
Mm-hmm.
ugly. And they told their daughter and wife, "Yep, it's in my briefcase." And they looked and looked and looked. There was no will, nothing.
Yeah. That's the most difficult thing. And the scavenger hunt, when someone says that something exists, and if they can't find it, you're going to be thinking about that for the rest of your life. Did I miss something? Did I throw away the briefcase? Who has it? Like there are stories of individuals in the legal community. This is a conversation I had yesterday with someone where small enough towns where people only go to a few attorneys that are in the area. And they go, I know that somebody did my dad's will. So the attorneys are emailing the other people's attorneys or the other attorneys in the community going, did anybody do this will? Because they don't have a copy of it. It's so frustrating to hear that there can be really simple things that are avoidable that because whatever reason happens, it's just not communicated as seamlessly as it could have been.
Right. And if you didn't communicate it, like you said, it literally didn't happen.
Yeah. There's another number 3 that we like to focus on. If you go to the estate planning tab, so on the estate planning tab, there's a section called Ask 3 Questions. And when you get to the financial side of things, this is really what takes a lot of time for people to figure out. It's marshaling the assets. If you ask 3 questions, and you can download a free form on our website that asks these questions for you of every single financial account that you have, bank account, insurance policy, save those answers in one place. Whoever is handling your estate is going to thank you tremendously. All right. And these are the 3 questions. If it's okay with you, I'll read them through.
Yes, absolutely. Please read.
So the first one is, what will happen to this account and or policy when I pass away? All right. That helps you understand the process. It helps you designate legal and beneficiary details. It gives you peace of mind. And it also helps you with financial plan management and financial literacy. So if I pass away, what's going to happen? The second question you need to ask is, who is authorized to access and communicate with the institution regarding this account and or policy when I pass away? So who is authorized to communicate with the bank, for example? If nobody is, that means that nobody can communicate with them right away. That means that you'll have to get letters of administration, and any questions that people have about those accounts, they won't get answered. So this then says, oh, nobody's authorized. You can then say, how do I get somebody authorized, and who should that individual be? And then the third thing is, what benefits or entitlements will be available to my designated beneficiaries when I pass away? And this is really important because it helps you identify, A, who are the beneficiaries, if there are any. Can I designate some? And what are the benefits or entitlements that are around? I can't tell you how often people have benefits to credit cards and other things that just go unused because they didn't even know that it was there. So if you ask these 3 questions about your financial accounts, people are going to be much, much happier with you. And there's a lot of side conversations that can go on that cascade off of those 3. But ask 3 questions.
I like that. Your statements bring up another question. Give us a couple nuggets. What
Okay.
are a couple ideas? What is somebody going to get from the deceased person's credit card?
Okay, so let's put it this way. Hypothetically speaking, Marie, you and I are married. You do all the finances in our house, and I really thank you for that. I appreciate it. Finance is not my strong suit. And as a result, you've taken out all of the family credit cards in your name. I am secondary on all of our policies. If something happens to you and you pass away, when somebody notifies the credit card issuer, whether it be American Express or Chase or Citibank, whoever it is, Bank of America, it could be even one of the 3 credit card bureaus, and they cancel your card. Did you know that every single one of my credit cards would be canceled automatically as well, leaving me with no credit cards?
I don't think I ever would have thought about it. So
Right?
that makes sense. And yeah, because if you're a co-signer on it
Mm-hmm.
and not, yeah,
I'm a
interesting. And
sec-
you don't have credit in your name, and then you literally are without credit.
mm-hmm. How am I going to go and pay for the things that I need to pay for right now? It's not to say I can't go and apply for a new credit card, but the reality is that when you're facing this situation, the last thing you want to do is have to be applying for credit cards and having them overnight them to you. Some credit cards offer travel benefits. What happens to the points on your accounts? You can have thousands of dollars worth of points maybe sitting there. Who knows? Maybe more, maybe less. What happens to those points? Some people, credit cards typically, if you do have points, the second they find out that the death occurs, they put a freeze in the accounts. All of those points can no longer be redeemed and they cash them out for cash or cash value. But if you play the points games, you probably are aware that the redemption value for gift cards, for other things, is oftentimes far more than the cash values. So I've seen people lose thousands of dollars because they didn't have access to the account to redeem it before an individual was notified, before they were notified. Another thing, and this happened to my mom and I, my dad had a lot of the bills set up on auto pay. Right? So this is who gets paid. This is how my bills get paid. But the second that the bank account was turned off, guess what? We can't log into the system anymore to see who gets paid, how they're getting paid, and who's no longer getting paid. You can't even see the names. So suddenly we're trying to figure out, okay, who are all the service providers that we go to? And do we need to figure out a new way to pay them? So that's a problem. So one of the things that we say is, okay, in our estate preparation package, what are your key expenses? Are they recurring? How are they paid? But having this type of exposure and information for the people that are going to step in, that's what's important. And the analogy that I draw is, if I came to you right now and I said, you and I are going on a trip. You have no cell phone. Your family can't talk to you. We're going to be in an island for 3 months. It's going to be amazing. But while you're there, your family can't communicate with you about anything. What do you think is going to happen to your life? Or their impact, right? Or the impact of you being gone. And that's what you need to account for.
Absolutely. It's a lot to say. That's true. It's really good food for thought because you're right. We're in a digital world and it's not just grabbing the bills at your in-laws' house and, okay, here's the water, here's the electric, here's the cable. And it's so different. Even bank statements, don't come in the mail anymore. So knowing how many banks there are, you're right. They need to know every financial institution. There's so much to that.
I think the most frustrating thing for me, or one of the most frustrating things, always remember to never speak in absolutes, is you call up the bank or you start having these conversations and over and over and over, you have to say, I'm calling because my so-and-so passed away. And you hear the genuine, but not so genuine, I'm sorry for your losses. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. And it gets to the point where it's almost like, you know what? I wish we could just have this really transactional conversation right now. You do this all day long. And I know that you say that you're sorry for my loss, but you're really not. Let's be honest. You're numb to this because this is literally all you do all your life. And I'm numb because of everything I've gone through. So let's just move on. And if it was at all possible for me to minimize the number of the I'm sorry for your loss conversations that I could have with strangers, I would do it. And I think that might be one of the best gifts of being organized, is that you can prevent your family members from having those. Or on the other hand, if you don't like them and you want to give them work, don't do any of this and actually make things more complicated, and they'll have a really good time figuring things out.
Ouch. Ouch. Yeah. No, that's lots of good, important information. Adam, wow. Do you have any last thoughts that you just want key takeaway for somebody to think about?
I think the last thing would be, it's also really important to understand where you live and where your assets reside. Things get very complicated very quickly when you have assets across multiple states. There are some neat things that you can do in terms of estate planning, in terms of finding unclaimed assets. We have a link that's one of those popular links on the whole site where we collected the resources and the links to every single unclaimed property database in the country. So there's 50 states, plus there's, I think it's 8 federal databases, and people are finding thousands and thousands of dollars that are literally just sitting in bank accounts that have been turned over to the government because they didn't claim them from banks. So come to the website, do that. But the point that I'm saying, or trying to say, not very elegantly, and so I apologize for that, is that where you live matters. Your wills, your trusts, your legalese, it's oftentimes state specific. So if you move, if you have a life event, if your estate plan exists, you also have to make sure that it is updated to meet and match your specific situation where you are today. So if you have to say it really elegantly, I think the best way to say it is plan today for tomorrow and remember to update later, because just like you, your estate plan is going to evolve.
100%. You're right. It does change. It's a moving situation because people's assets grow, they diminish, they change. They may have made the will long before and then they sell their house and they're in assisted living or something. Things can change drastically. So great advice, Adam. Thank you so much. And I will put links, and I'm going to make sure and have links to the games and, of course, your website and my show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for joining me on Hospice Explained. Think about ways you can make a difference in someone's life. Also, please subscribe and share this podcast with anyone who would benefit from listening. Thank you.